Review Committee is my able deputy, Honorable Yusuf Suleiman, the MP for Bole Bamboy. The chair. The Honorable Collins Dauda, the MP for Asutifi South, and the chairman of the Lands Committee. Now, Professor Bruce Kofi Buanon Yakubu, who is a lecturer at the University of Ghana. Professor Kwame Jan Esquire, lecturer at the University of Ghana. Reverend Dr. Lawrence Tete, the Reverend Minister. Dr. Cyprian Wayono, technical advisor. Professor Antonio Usuansan, who is the executive secretary of the Lands Commission, and Surveyor Hoboy Agwa, who was later replaced by my own able. If you don't give me your name, I'll mute. Director Jones. We also had a secretariat, hardworking young man who supported this work: Abdul Kudus Abdullahi, Alexandra Samuel Frimpon, and Gloria Ayangba. Let me thank all of you on behalf of His Excellency the President for this very important work. Ladies and gentlemen, it is great honor and a deep sense of national duty that I welcome you all to this very important press conference. Today's engagement marks a critical milestone in our collective efforts to strengthen integrity, transparency, and accountability in the administration of public lands, which are held in trust for the people of Ghana. As you recall, on the 10th of January 2025, on assumption of office, His Excellency the President John Mahama, directed the Lands Commission to immediately halt all activities related to the lease and processing of transactions involving public lands. This decisive intervention was taken to safeguard public lands from abuse, restore discipline in land administration, and ensure that all transactions involving these lands deliver value for money to the state. As you recall, on 10th of January 2025 as well, His Excellency the President directed the Lands Commission to immediately halt all these activities, as I have stated. In line with this directive and consistent with the government's resetting agenda, I, the Minister, constituted and inaugurated a committee chaired by my deputy to review the lease of public lands. This date was on the 5th of June 2025. The establishment of this committee underscored government's commitment to restoring public confidence in land administration and ensuring that all public lands are managed with integrity, efficiency, and in the best interest of our national development. The committee undertook a comprehensive review of all public land allocations and leases across the country. Upon the completion of its work, I submitted the committee's findings and recommendations, and ladies and gentlemen, you can just imagine the review and the enormity of this work across the length and breadth of this country and the 16 regions. And the recommendations were sent to Cabinet for consideration by His Excellency and Cabinet Ministers. A thorough review of that work was done, and I'm pleased to announce that the Cabinet approved those recommendations with certain key directives and directed with immediate that we implement those recommendations with additional directives immediately. In the course of its work, the committee reviewed a total of 8,160 lease applications executed or initiated across all 16 regions in Ghana. These applications comprised 4,176 direct land allocations, 2,799 regularizations, and for the purposes of the public, regularization in this sense means people who normally go and acquire lands through all sorts of different means, through chiefs, through other people, and later find out those lands are public lands and have to regularize it. Those were 2,799. 19 direct allocations related to state bungalows. Often this is done through the Minister of Works and Housing. And then 108, land swap or public-private partnership arrangements. Interestingly, on that one, out of the 108, 88 of that, specifically in the Ashanti region. And then we have 795 subsequent transactions. Often you acquire public lands and require that you want to do transfer. The law requires that you have to get the approval of the Lands Commission. Those transactions are also 795. And then 265 fresh allocations, which is similar to direct allocations, mostly in the northern sector. The review revealed that a number of these applications and allocations do not fully comply with the Lands Commission's internal processes for the allocation of public lands. These lapses undermine transparency, accountability, and the public trust, and expose the system to potential abuse. To address these issues decisively and restore accountability, the following measure has been implemented. A. All uncompleted transactions of the categories listed above have been cancelled, and affected applicants will be formally notified. Completed transactions of the categories listed above will undergo case-by-case review, and any allocations found to have been processed without full compliance with due process will also face cancellation. All uncompleted regularization applications will remain suspended pending comprehensive review and standardization of the Lands Commission's internal procedures. The revised procedures will apply to all pending and future regularizations. For the avoidance of doubt and to ensure consistency in implementation, a transaction will be treated as completed where a formal offer has been issued and accepted by the applicant, and transactions that do not meet this threshold will be treated as uncompleted for the purposes of this exercise. In the interest of transparency, both completed and uncompleted application lists will be published on a region-by-region basis, beginning with the Greater Accra region on the Ministry and the Lands Commission's website. Completed transactions that fall for case-by-case review will be assessed against clear benchmarks. These include compliance with the statutory and administrative procedures for public land allocation, value for money, conformity with land use and planning requirements, and enhanced disclosure to prevent the misuse of corporate structures in public land applications. Ladies and gentlemen, let me emphasize that these measures are not intended to unfairly disadvantage anyone. All affected applicants will be given the opportunity to reapply once the ministry completes the following reforms. 1. There will be a review of public lands application Form 5. One of the major findings of the committee, and this is really something that is well known, was the inconsistent application of public land application forms across regional lands commission. Every region had a different Form 5. Different Form 5 in every region. Very uniform, very unorthodox. This lack of uniformity resulted in discretionary practices or uneven standards in the allocation of public lands, thereby weakening transparency and accountability. To address this, the Ministry, in collaboration with the Lands Commission, has completed a comprehensive review of Form 5. The revised form will now serve as the single mandatory application instrument for all public land transactions nationwide, covering both reapplications arising from this exercise and all future applications. So the revised Form 5 will be published on the Lands Commission official website and made available for public access within the coming weeks. Applicants will be able to download, complete, and submit the form electronically. 2. Review of Land Commission's internal processes for public land allocation. The committee also observed inconsistencies and weak enforcement of the Lands Commission's internal procedures for the allocation of public lands. These procedural gaps created opportunities for abuse, circumvention of controls, and the processing of allocation without full compliance with established rules. To address this, the ministry has undertaken a comprehensive review of the Lands Commission's internal processes for public land allocation. The revised process clearly defines the stages of processing public land applications, strengthens internal checks, and aligns each stage of decision-making with the principles of transparency, accountability, and traceability. This is intended to make sure that everybody who is in the line of this process is accountable and can be tracked and held responsible. Under the revised framework, no public land will be allocated by the Lands Commission without the prior written approval of the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. This measure reinforces ministerial oversight, ensures policy coherence, and provides additional safeguard against unauthorized or irregular allocations. Legislating public land application reforms. To ensure sustainability and prevent a reversal to past practices, government has taken steps to provide legislative backing to these reforms. The revised public land application form and the restructured internal allocation process will be incorporated into the draft land regulation, which is currently undergoing review. This is how serious government is in this reform. The processes that I've just described will be backed legally by parliamentary regulation. And we have already gone far ahead in making sure that we regularize these reforms. 3. Legislating public land application form. To ensure sustainability and prevent a reversion to past practices, government has taken steps to provide legislative, as I've stated. 4. Revision of public land premiums. Ladies and gentlemen, another critical issue identified by the committee relates to the valuation and pricing of public lands. Over the years, premiums charged for the lease of public lands have ranged from approximately 1 to 30% of market value. This practice significantly undervalues public lands and fails to deliver value for money to the state. I mean, can you imagine you are buying the same land in the same vicinity, say in Laboni, and somebody is buying it 1 million, somebody is buying it 200, somebody is buying it 300, somebody is buying it $1 million. The ministry, in consultation with the Lands Commission, has therefore proposed a new premium framework for public land leases. Under this new framework, a minimum of 70% and not 1 to 30%, a fixed 70% of the assessed market value of public land will be payable upfront as a premium, with the remaining 30% structured over the tenure of the lease as ground rent. Again, under this new framework, a minimum of 70% of assessed market value, and ladies and gentlemen, we mean the real market value. And I think you will see in my press briefing the effort that will be made with the land valuators to identify the values of properties in every area across the length and breadth of our country, and especially in our city, the capital cities. To be sure that, for example, if we are talking about values of land in cantonments, it's common knowledge. Pursuant to Section 235, Subsection 4 of the Land Act 2020 at 1036, state institutions that are beneficial of public lands are being reminded that the allocations confer on them only user rights without the power to transact any business relating to those lands without prior written approval of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. And I think this is very, very important. State institutions and companies that are giving state lands, these are rights that are conferred on them. Often over the years, sometimes it appears to those institutions that those lands belong to them. The law is very clear, and I've stated it. Subsection 4 of Act 1036. State institutions that are beneficial of public lands must note that allocations confirm on them only user rights without the power to transact any business relating to those lands without the prior written approval of the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. 5. Compilation of market value data for defined land clusters. To support transparent pricing and informed decision making, the Ministry, working with the Lands Commission, will compile and maintain reliable data on market values for defined land clusters across the country. And I think I stated it. These values will be published on the website of the Lands Commission in the spirit of transparency. There will be no doubt on the values of properties across every part of this country, every city, every cluster. And this will be publicly known so that transactions, especially public lands, will not be undersold. Compilation of market value data for defined clusters. This data will serve as a reference point for assessing premiums, evaluating value for money, and supporting consistent and objective decision making in public land allocations. It will also enhance predictability and fairness in the system and reduce opportunities for arbitrary valuations. It is not for some valuator to arbitrarily tell us how much the price of land is. It has already been predetermined. It's in the public domain. That is how these systems we are putting in place will safeguard public lands in the country and ensure value for money. 6. Establishment of Public Land Protection Task Force. During this transition and reform implementation period, the Ministry, in collaboration with the Lands Commission, will establish a Public Land Protection Task Force to safeguard public lands affected by this exercise. The task force will operate within the framework of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, the Lands Commission Act 767, the Land Act 1036, and all applicable criminal laws relating to trespass, unlawful entry, and illegal development. The task force will comprise the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Ministry of Works and Housing, Water Resources, the Lands Commission, the Ghana Police and Allied Security Agencies, and selected private sector partners. The mandate of the task force will include preventing encroachment, halting unauthorized development, and ensuring that public lands under review are protected from illegal occupation and development. I'm also pleased to clarify, for the avoidance of doubt, that the template ban on all services of the Lands Commission, including leasing, processing, regulation, regularization of public lands, has now been lifted. All activities may resume immediately but strictly in accordance with the new reforms and procedures announced today. This ensures that every transaction going forward will adhere to the principles of transparency, accountability, and value for money while safeguarding the interests of both the state and legitimate applicants. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by emphasizing the following. Public lands are vested in the President in trust for the people of Ghana to be administered in the public interest. They are meant to serve national development objectives, support public infrastructure, and promote equitable access to land. It is therefore our solemn responsibility, and that of every Ghanaian, to safeguard these lands from mismanagement, misuse, and unauthorized disposal. I wish to assure the people of Ghana that the government, led by His Excellency President John Mahama, remains fully committed to reforming and decentralizing land administration in Ghana. The ministry has secured 100% retention, and this is very important, of Lands Commission's internally generated funds, out of which 67% will be used for the funding of land bank and digitalization project. And this is a very, very important project for His Excellency. We believe with these reforms backed up by the digitalization agenda, we can completely get to the place where land administration services will be at the doorsteps of the people of Ghana. will not be a nightmare. You can stay in the comfort of your home and secure every service of land administration without middlemen, without connection men. That is the journey we are embarking on with the people of Ghana. This initiative will serve as a catalyst to restore public confidence and ensure that public lands are managed transparently, responsibly, and for the benefit of the present and future generations. I thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the press. We shall now open the platform for a couple of questions here and there.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me note that I intentionally brought a very hard working, diligent committee members who have done so much. Okay. So I think I was making a note that all the very important reforms and the measures we've taken were done through the hard work of the committee members. And so I brought them purposely to ensure that first, the people of Ghana will note the very important work you've done. And let me also note that your work is not over. As you can see, we are going forward to do a lot of other internal work. For example, I talk about the 108 land swaps. How do we make sure, and the reviews we are going to do for all those lands that are council and those that are not council? How do we ensure value for money? We are going to be working with you until the work is done. And so we can ask the questions, but I will invite them to answer some of the questions because of their expertise and the work they've done. Thank you.
All right. The stage is now set for questions. If you have a question, okay. Your name and the outfit, your media house.
Minister, you mentioned that as part of the reforms, you have the committee proposed that those that didn't go through the process successfully should be cancelled. There are others that are also subjected for review among other things. Minister, what about those that have successfully gone through but they are undervalued? How do you address it? Are you going to reconsider selling it back to them, or what is the proposal for those people?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. I think I made it clear that even for transactions that are completed, our mandate requires that we do value for money on case-by-case basis, and we'll do exactly that.
Thank you. We'll take 3 more so that the minister will answer them together. 3 more questions.
They don't have questions.
It's obvious we are satisfied. All right.
Yes. We'll call the chairman to highlight some of the...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now receive the chairman of the committee, the Deputy Lands Minister.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we have all heard it very well from our hard-working minister. These are the kind of decisions that we need to take in this country. There have been so many committees that have gone into the review of the sale of public lands over the years. What is different under this minister is that this report is going to be implemented. The previous reports, to be honest with you, because of some good reasons, some politicians failed to implement them. This is a government that is committed to ensuring that whatever that we have found out will be implemented. And so, for instance, the issue of ground rent, which was the case that between 1 to 30% will be paid upfront, and then 70% will be ground rent over a period of time, has now been reversed. This time, anybody who is allocated a land will pay 70% upfront. And this is not a time for somebody to use his or his discretion. This is the time we are saying that it's 70%. Everybody will pay the 70% if you are allocated a land. Whether you are a minister, whether you are, whatever it is. So then there's fairness. Again, the issue of valuation of land. Like the minister said, you have a situation in that in cantonment. Somebody buys a plot of land at 350 or 390,000 Ghana cedi. Then adjacent that plot, another person's buy one plot, 1 million Ghana cedi. This is unfair. This does not give value to the states. And these are the reasons why he's saying to us that going forward, the Land Valuation Department will do evaluation of all government lands, especially in prime areas. And then we'll have this data. This data will be made public. It will be a public document for everybody to be able to see. It will be published on the Lands Commission's website. So that once you allocated the land, you already know how much the plot of land will cost you, and then you can pay that amount of money and move on. And so for me, this is part of the resetting agenda. This has never happened, but today we are seeing it happen. And let me use this opportunity, my boss, let me use this opportunity to thank my hardworking committee members. Indeed, they sacrificed a lot. We've been here several times, over several months, to go into this work. And it will also interest you to note that today, we can give a wrong estimate of government lands across the region. Hitherto, you're unable to tell how many acres of land does government own in, let's say, Asante region. How many lands does government own in Northern region? Today, we have a rough idea that in Accra here, these are the acreages of lands dotted everywhere in this city that is owned by government. And we will make all this available on the Lands Commission's website. On this note, once again, let me thank the minister for this initiative, these bold decisions, and to thank my colleagues, my senior members, for the diligent work that you have supported me to do to bring this exercise to a closure. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you. I think that.
No, please come here.
So, thank you very much for joining us, the media. I'm sure the Director of Communication will have a very important meeting with you.
Thank you very much. On that note, we are grateful for your coming. Please, let's all, ladies and gentlemen of the press, let's all wait behind. Thank you for coming. Yeah, they don't have. It's clear. It's clear. That's the thing. So now.